Hey everyone, Brian here from Brian Guy Garage, and today we are going to be testing out the Flex Hone from Brush Research Manufacturing. So before we get started here, I just want to show you what I'm working with. I have my small block 350 here, torn down to the bare block. And let's take a look at these cylinders. Right away you can see they've seen better days. There's vertical scratches. If we look further down there, you can maybe see the ring at the bottom where there we go. You see that ring around the bottom there where the piston rings sit at bottom dead center, as well as that area up here at the top where we got some surface rust where the pistons don't stroke all the way up to. But it's really nothing bad. Some light scoring, nothing that a fingernail is going to get caught in or anything like that. And it's looking about the same across all cylinders. This car sat for a while, a long time ago, so I'm guessing that the rings got a little rusty and crusty, and when it started back up, that's what these vertical scratches are from. But I couldn't help myself, because I got too excited once the package came. So these are the results, and I'm very surprised, definitely pleased. It's very easy to use. It gives really nice results. And this nice crosshatch pattern here should have my new piston rings seated very well. So since I'm working with a Chevy 350 here, which has a 4-inch bore, I went ahead and purchased the 4-inch Flex Hone. This is the GBD series, 4-inch. It's 240 grit, and the abrasive media is silicon carbide. 240 grit should be perfect for my application, as I'm going to be putting in cast iron rings back onto my pistons. It's a mild build that I'm doing here, so cast iron will be fine. And from what I've seen, the manufacturers recommend around 240 grit finishing inside the cylinders, so that should be great. They should seal nice. Depending on the condition of the cylinders you're working with, you may need a coarser grit. I'm going to put a very useful link in the description below that has a whole bunch of information about the Flex Hone as well as choosing a grit. But from what I've seen, most people use 240 for just a general refinishing before they're popping new rings in. So that should be great for my application. So here's the actual Flex Hone here. It's pretty wild looking. It's really neat that a company can make something that's this cheap, accessible, and effective that you can just chuck in a drill or a drill press and it gives such fantastic results. Something you need to be aware of is that each Flex Hone size has a respective operating range. So for example, this 4-inch Flex Hone here, Brush Research recommends running it between 600 to 800 RPMs. So you really need to look at the size that you get and what the recommended operating range is, because if you use it too fast or too slow outside of that operating range, you're not going to get the crosshatch pattern and the desired results that you want. So this being at 600 to 800 recommended RPMs, I have it on a Craftsman drill here that its max speed is 850 RPMs without a load. So with the Flex Hone on there, I'm pretty much sitting right in the RPM range that I want to be, and I can just pull the trigger down all the way. So it's definitely convenient. So make sure that you can manage the speed on the tool that you have for the specific Flex Hone you're using. So another very important key component next to operating range is going to be plunge speed. And what I mean by plunge speed is how quickly you'll be driving the tool in and out of the cylinder. If you're going too quickly or too slowly, you may not achieve the results that you desire. Everything that I've read recommends, they tell you a consistent but quick arm speed in and out, and on your last few strokes to increase pretty much as fast as you can move your arm in and out of here, and that will give you that nice crosshatch pattern. And obviously all these things aren't very descriptive of the motion. You're never going to know exactly the speed unless you see somebody do it. So that's kind of the whole point of the video. I'm hoping that this will give you an idea of what you should be doing and what kind of results you get. But in your case, it may be some trial and error. If you go too fast or you go too slow and you wipe the cylinder down with a nice clean rag and you look and you don't have that crosshatch pattern that you want, you're most likely going to need to either adjust your speed of the drill or the speed of your plunge. The next important thing here is going to be lubrication. don't reach in your nightstand drawer. Brush Research recommends using their honing fluid, of course, but also they recommend 1030 weight oil. In my case, I'm using Dexmerk ATF automatic transmission fluid. Seen other people use it, and they had good results, so I got plenty of it and I'm using it too. Before you start and you take this out of the box, all of this abrasive media is going to be very dry. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take whatever lubricant you're using, and you want to get everything nice and lubed up. All of these stones, you don't want anything to be dry. Honestly, if I had a bucket of that stuff, I would have just dumped it right in the bucket. So spin the machine that you have it on, get everything soaked and lubed up, and then before you start, you're going to want to do the same thing in the cylinder. Pour some of the fluid in there, and then I'm just using my glove and I'm spreading it around, making sure it's nice and evenly coated within the cylinder. Also, before you start, you always want the machine rotating when you enter and exit the cylinder. So you want to start the machine and the tool outside of the cylinder, go in, do your plunges, and then come out with it rotating. Don't put it in or remove it without the tool rotating. Additionally, I've seen various recommendations for stroke count. I've seen anywhere from like 12 to 64 recommended. What I found works nicely for me is 60, and then on the last 5 or so, I increase my plunge speed pretty much as fast as I can move my arms. And I've read that that helps you to achieve that nice 45-degree crosshatch pattern that you're looking for. So that works well for me. But remember, as always, when you're using an abrasive, you don't want to jump in with the most coarse grit and go 100 times in here. Although you're removing a very small amount of material from these cylinder walls, you're still removing material. So on the first cylinder you do, this is assuming that you have pretty much consistent and even wear across all of them. Start on the first cylinder, do about, after you oil everything up, do about 10 to 15 strokes. Take a nice clean cloth, wipe everything down, get all the oil out of there, and inspect your work. You may get away with 10 to 15 strokes if your cylinders are in really good condition. Otherwise, you may need to do it a few more times. Do it another 10, 20, wipe it down, inspect your work, use that first cylinder as your test guinea pig. And then whatever you find works, go ahead and apply that to the rest of them. I'm going to take a nice clean cloth here and wipe down the cylinders real quick to make sure there's no kind of debris in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my lubricant, evenly spread it across the cylinders, put a little more in there, get the other side, and that feels good. Okay, now, as I said, I'm going to start the machine before I enter into the cylinder. And I'm going to go ahead and do, since I know already that this is about the amount that works well for the condition that my cylinders are in, I'm going to do about 60 strokes. And on the last 5 or so, you're going to notice that my speed increases significantly. So let's take a look. As you saw, I still had the machine rotating when I pulled it out. So now we're going to wipe it down and take a look. Use a nice clean rag. These are old cotton t-shirts, so they're basically lint-free, nice and soft to use. So I'm going to remove the oil film in here, as well as the cylinder material that was ground down, as you can see. Go ahead and move to a clean side of the cloth. I'll wipe the rest of that down. So here are the results, and I am definitely happy with that. The light is making it a little more difficult to see, but I got what's definitely close to a 45-degree crosshatch. So my piston rings should seal and be happy. Alright, and with this last cylinder done, I'm pretty much finished with the block. Everything's nice and uniform. That crosshatch pattern is nice and uniform and even across the whole block. And overall, I'm very impressed with that tool. It did a really great job. It didn't take a long time. It's not expensive. That one coming in at about 50-ish bucks, which is nothing for me to be able to do this at home. There's one little spot here. You can see down there, it looks like where the ring was sitting when the piston was at bottom dead center. I can't feel it at all with my fingernail, so I'm not too worried about it, but I'm probably going to lube it up again and do maybe half of a full pass on that and see if I can clean it up a little more. But as I said, not worried about it. At this point, once you're done using the Flexon on all cylinders and you're happy with your results, what's extremely important now is to get some hot soapy water and clean out all of these cylinders extremely well. What I'm probably going to use with the soapy water is this brush here. It's one of my wheel brushes, and I think it should be perfect for that. So clean this out very, very, very well. You can't clean your block enough. You saw how much cylinder material came off on these rags, and you don't want that stuff anywhere in your motor when you're reassembling. So clean the block very well. After it's all nice and clean, try to use compressed air if you got it. Dry everything out. Rags, make sure you get it as clean as you can, and then take something like, you can use the motor oil that you were already using, ATF, WD-40, something, and give everything a nice coat of oil all around so it won't rust, and it'll keep while you finish the rest of your motor. Well, all right, guys, that's about it. I hope that gave you a nice picture of using the machine, an idea of the movement that you're gonna need to be using. These are the results that I achieved based on everything that I read and other things that I watched, and it did a really nice job. So I hope this helps you guys out. Additionally, I'm gonna put a link underneath the video in the description to a page that I found a lot of useful information about using this. If you're having trouble deciding on what kind of grit you might want to use, based on the piston rings that you're going to be choosing, it has recommendations in there for your finishing grit and all kinds of good stuff like that. So, all right, hope this helped, and you guys have a nice day.